friend.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Of course, you know that we're your friends, right? But you know, it's not been a very friendly economy, wouldn't you say? Um, the economy has wobbled amid myriads of unresolved economic challenges and the seeming lack of capacity of the outgoing administration to halt the slide. Seeming underlined. So 2023 elections offered a ray of hope to Nigerians to choose an administration competent enough to reset the economy. Again, the operative word, reset. The issues are a myriad. Debt burden, GDP growth, telecom sector. I mean, that in particular has hit so many people. I mean, it's so easy for you to send WhatsApp messages, send emails, but when it comes to sending money, it's a problem. And we weren't even able to send our votes. Anyway, let's have this conversation this morning around pressing the reset button on Nigeria's economy. We've successfully co-opted Dr. Dakpo Akinoshun, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Maybe I'm looking forward. Thank you for joining us in this segment as well. And hope the traffic didn't slow down your economic movements.
Well, it did affect my fueling.
Well, to have this conversation with us, we also have Professor Banji Oyelaro Yinka joining us from Abidjan, Senior Special Advisor on Industrialization to the President of the AFDB. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us this morning. Perhaps a kind of some background from you, first of all, Prof. We see the data. We see all of the information making the rounds. Do you think, as a nation, as a people, we have a clear, unequivocal, unambiguous understanding of the economic challenges before us?
Thank you so much, Ayo. I think, let me answer by saying I will try to sort of use your phrase of reset. And I begin by sort of, sketching the contour of the structure of our economy, where we are now. I agree with you. Many may not even understand how challenging the situation we are in now. But I'd like to make 2 or 3 points and say, to start with, Nigeria, like most of those who got independence in the 50s, 60s, started as agrarian societies. We all made effort, and I'm saying we, meaning Asia, Africa, all of those who got independence, try to quickly modernize towards what folks call income convergence with those who have gone ahead of us. The process had always been through what we call the structural transformation of the economy. At the heart of all the development instruments, for me, had been the process of industrialization. What are you trying to achieve? You shift away from low-skill, low-productivity economic activities that is characterized by what we call diminishing returns into modern industrial society. Today, when you compare us with those who are comparators, and this is to answer your question now, we are characterized as a low income. Many people say we are middle income, but we are the lower end of the middle income. The middle income country has achieved close to $10,000 GDP per capita. Nigeria has stagnated around 2,000 for almost 40 years, back and forth. So we are trapped in what I call a low income or low income trap. Just like many people speak about the middle income trap. These are countries that made very rapid progress in the beginning and then got stuck. Many of the folk, we also started with Malaysia, Korea, and all of that. All of them raced forward, but they were able to achieve the middle income status of around $8,000, $10,000 per capita. Some got stuck. Korea moved forward. In fact, Korea became a middle income country in 1994. and have become a high income. Nigeria, on the other hand, now we are stuck at what I call low-level equilibrium economic trap, the so-called poverty trap. It is a situation where you remain poor irrespective of what you are doing. We reach an equilibrium situation where all the positive things we do are cancelled by all the negative forces. You know, that's what they call equilibrium, both in physics and in economics. They call it market equilibrium. So we've been stuck. So, and this is the challenge. In order to frame the future, you have to understand where you are coming from. We have been stuck for many, many decades. And I want to propose that those who will frame the new economic reset, we should have a big ambition and set for ourselves a target of 7% growth for a long time in order for us to be able to double our GDP over the next 10 years. When you grow at 7%, you can double your wealth in 10 years. So maybe in 2040 or whatever. The second goal.
Okay. Just a quick one on that.
Yeah.
When you say we should set high goals, forgive me, maybe I'm just being a novice and I'm speaking out of ignorance, but the low goals we set, we're struggling with. I have this personal theory that we've been literally living on the fringes of recession every time. It would seem like we are almost always around 1%, 2%, almost never above. So it's easier to fall into depression simply because you were living on the fringes, literally just struggling along. So how do we cross that Rubicon to the extent of what you say now, you know, growing by 7%?
No, your characterization, Ayo, is correct. And, you know, when you've actually, you know, described what I call a low income trap. We are stuck there. We just can't maneuver, you know. And so if you know, like in physics, they say if an object is at rest and you don't apply a very strong force, it's not going to move. That's why I said a vision has to be a forceful vision to move Nigeria out. It's very easy to get stuck in pessimism. And I understand perfectly what you're saying. It's been for so long. The way we've been, we have an economy that is basically subsistence. In fact, the equilibrium is around subsistence, and that's what they describe as a low equilibrium economy. When you are in a stable equilibrium level of per capita, is close to subsistence requirement. So you can easily fall into depression or recession anytime there's some sort of an external shock. So this is why we have to get out of this trap.
Okay.
In fact, yeah. So, and let me give an example that always comes to my mind. In the 50s, 60s, Korea was exactly where we are. And people were crying for food. Everybody was just crying, we just want to eat, we just want to eat. And the Park Chung-hee, who was the leader of the country then, kept saying, yes, we are going to eat, but my goal is different. We have to become a power, an industrial power. You know, you can read a book, he wrote about a massive book, about 600 pages. And he kept saying, yes, we know we are stuck in this poverty trap. But for us to get out of it, we need a big vision. And that is what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
That we need someone who will carry us to where we never dreamt where we can get to.
Okay, Prof, just 1 second. Let me raise an issue with Mr. Akioshu. First of all, what do you make of this proposition?
You see, you mentioned the fact that we live on the fringes and we have remained on the fringes of recession. And the issue is, how do we raise income levels? One thing is certain, as Nigeria, we're not earning enough money to reflate our economy. The only way we'll get out of the poverty level is when what we earn as a nation, what we earn as individuals increase. How do we do that? Our major source of income has been the oil. Oil has continued to dwindle in what we earn that comes into the national economy.
It's beginning to rise again, isn't it?
Well, you see, over the years, you find that we were producing 2 million barrels per day. We came down to 600,000 at a time. We have more people lifting oil and doing crude business, but what we're getting in return, in results, is lower. The money that comes out of it, what happens to it? What is it used for? Majority of it goes back into fuel subsidy and things like that.
Forgive me, Mr. Akinsho, I just want to ask you, do you think that some of the challenges, I mean, you've heard Prof say, we've been stuck for about 40 years. Do you think some of these things could be as a result of laws that are impeding the earnings, or policies that are not helpful, or what I always go to, Alero, please don't laugh, lack of vision?
I think the policies slow us down sometimes, but it's more in the implementation. Many of the policies are designed to make things better. However, when it comes to the implementation of those policies, is where we find the human factor that seems to drive it down. Now, if there is a law that says, I think it's under the EFCC Act that has been said, that you should come and justify the source of your wealth, rather than them investigating that. That has had several efforts to pass through. It has been stalled. What if I can come to you and ask that, I'm not saying you stole, but justify your wealth. How did you make this money? And you cannot account for it. I will take you to court. Is the judiciary sufficiently empowered to avoid it becoming compromised in those kind of investigations? It will take us, so whoever is going to do this has to be a holistic thing. Are you empowering are you enabling the police in a way that they cannot be bribed? Do we lift up the level of the police? And I think it will start from reforming the administration of justice. If the policeman is well paid and he can resist being compromised, if you take the matter to the court, you're asking, the first time I got involved in a matter of this nature, we were fighting for the governorship of a state. And the man who was fighting told us, oh, don't worry about this case. I don't have money to pay you now. But as soon as I become governor, I'll be able to pay you. And the question was, are you going to be paying for your personal bills from the government coffers? So we told the man, no, if you cannot pay us now, then you should not become governor, because this man is only going there to steal.
Exactly.
However, it seemed like a reasonable proposition to him that every month I'm going to be getting about 50 billion in revenues from the federation account. I can pay you easily. And until we get to a situation where the man who's going there is not going there with the mindset I'm going to take, the judiciary is going to sit on it. Hey, this man is going to get 50 billion every month. What does it cost him to pay a judicial officer who will not get $1 billion in his lifetime salary?
Oh, wow. Well, Prof, it will seem like Mr. Akinsho is taking us to the part where, on the one hand, is a role of policies, on the other hand, is a role of implementation. So when you say that there is a simple solution,
The civil service.
we agree. Don't go there yet. We agree that we have a challenge on our hands and all of that. What has stalled us until now? Is it the policies or the people who implement the policies?
I think when you make policy errors, you can correct them. If the theory behind the policy is wrong, you can reset. Because we are talking about reset. And if you correct policy and you don't also put in place the right things to implement, particularly the skills, the management, the bureaucracy behind it, this is, I believe, where we have missed it. The institutions to push forward an agenda has to be transparent, open, accountable. And that's what I think my colleague is talking about. When you do not have accountable system, when someone does things and you budget this 50 billion he's talking about, and there's no outcome, and nobody asks questions, the next person is emboldened to even do worse. So I think it's all combined together. First, the theory has to be right, the policy has to be right, and the implementation has to be open, transparent, and accountable to the people.
Well, Prof, you wrote a book, was it 2016 or 2019? My apologies for butting in, about moving Nigeria from consumption to production. This book, yeah. I think, dates back 2016 or 2019. I'm not particularly
2016,
sure.
Yeah, 2016.
Now, what was the theory behind that? And is this something practicable now? Because anyone who sees that title will say, oh, it's an amazing thing and everything, and it will also speak to the issue Mr. Akinshon raised now about Nigeria being able to earn from what we produce and beyond the oil. What was the theory behind that? And is that possibility still subsistent today, irrespective of all the challenges that we have on our hands?
I believe so. My recounting in that book is about all of the capital stock that we spend so much money on. Ajaokuta, refineries, fertilizer, aluminium. You find them all in that book in very great details. And I recount that when you have an economy where you actually invest a huge sums of money, billions of dollars, in capital stock, you call them capital stock, right? When you invest in capital, so you expect to see productivity gains. If you say, for example, you invest in fertilizer plants, you invest in all of this, you expect to see your agriculture transform into a modern industrial agriculture. But we see that they still remain the same. The same figures we've been quoting for 40, 50 years is the same figures we are still quoting. 70% smallholder farmers, this and this and this, they are all the same. So my point in that book was that we are stuck in a low equilibrium trap because even though we invested, these things are not working for us. Why? Most of them are moribund. And I've said them in some previous interviews where you have billions of dollars in a place like Ajaokuta and it's not working. In Warri River is not working. Kaduna Fertilizer, Ikoebuku, all of those, they are not working. So on paper, you have actually invested in capital stock, but they have gone to the ground. It's sunk into somewhere. So those are the things we need to interrogate ourselves and say, how can you as a nation put so much money in something that doesn't work for you? The second aspect of going from consumption, because the whole idea of investing in capital stock is to make us a productive nation. We produce, we sell, we earn foreign exchange, and we get both food security and all the other securities. But we haven't got there. We are still stuck in low income equilibrium.
But
the second aspect.
But Professor, the issue now is that we are not producing. We're still consuming.
Alero, this is the point. We're not producing because, okay, so for example, let me give a very simplistic example. You buy a fridge for your house, you buy a freezer, you buy a television, and then you just put them home and cover them up. That's precisely what we've done. You just cover them up. And then your children say, I want cold water. I want to watch television. I said, no, just or you go and buy them fake. This is what has happened to us, literally, actually, So all of those investments have gone to nothing due to things you and I know, they never were allowed to get to a point where they are operating. The second big dimension of going from consumption to production is we need to transit from being this smallholder, this small country thinking, having 70–80% people working on farms. Nobody does that anymore. I mean, those who have achieved high middle income and high income country. I'll give you an example. People are quoting this figure all the time. Oh, Nigeria has a 20–25% agricultural contribution to GDP. What does that mean? If you break it down, what does that really mean? You take a comparative country like Korea. Today, in 2022, the agriculture contribution to GDP is 2%. 2%. But they have transited to manufacturing and industry, which is contributing close to 33–35%. So we are stuck again in what I can call a structural growth track. We are not moving. We are having this narrative all the time that we are doing agriculture. We should do modern industrial agriculture. That's another place where we are stuck in a structural track.
So, Professor,
we have to modernize agriculture. We have to free assets that we have that are not working and make sure that they work for the country.
So, Professor, after we have modernized our agriculture, where do we go from there when our climate is so unfriendly for industry? The few industries we had, international ones at least, have all moved out. How are we going to now invite new ones or bring back the old ones and start new ones with these agricultural products that you say that we must now mechanize?
So we are talking about reset, right? You and I are talking about us doing a reset, and I really believe in that. I don't ever give up on Nigeria. I don't ever give up and say, oh, it's too late. It's never too late. Countries are not like human beings. Nigeria is not going to die in the next 10, 15 years. So we have to reset. We have to show good faith. We have to change our ways. It's as simple as that. We have to show trust, not just to ourselves. You know, they said to your own self, be true first. And let people see that there's actually a reset. And you put it very well. We had all of this industry, even the private ones. I mentioned the public ones. We had the private ones, Michelin, Dunlop, all of them, Ferrudo. They were all manufacturing spare parts everywhere. Where have they gone to? So we have to fix power. We have to fix power, the power sector. Part of the reset has to be power sector. We have to fix it. Two, we have to show good faith.
Sore point, Professor. Sore point.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to mention it because I know you go there. Yeah. So, and we have to show good faith to people who should invest. A country like ours, people should be running here to come and invest. And they are not doing so because of our bad faith.
Well, let me ask the senior advocate of Nigeria with us here about jurisprudence for businessmen. There are, those who look at some things and look at certain judgments that have come from whatever, and are wondering if it just so happens that for one reason or the other there is a breach of trust, or contract, a contract goes belly up and all. What's the assurance that I have that I will get justice? Do we have the kind of environment for ease of doing business that can be easily justiciable, so that no one, foreign investor that Alero is advocating, talking about now, will feel shortchanged as a result of our, judicial, environment?
You see, as you mentioned, when it comes to the laws around ease of doing business, I think this administration has tried in passing the laws and creating. But as I've always said, and I always seem to go back to this judicial issue we have, is that very simple. Economy cannot be divorced from the legal environment. No matter how much progress you want to make, as you have said, if you don't find justice for a breach of a contract, or it takes so long to get it, it becomes a disincentive. He mentioned the Ajaokuta and the large programs that would have gone a long way in helping our economy. These have all been embroiled in litigation by foreigners in Nigeria. We're doing foreigners fighting over control of Ikotabasi, control of Ajaokuta, and things like that. We find ourselves held back almost 40 years just because there's slow litigation and unending litigation on it. Panels would have been produced, cars could have been manufactured in Nigeria if those litigation were settled. Now, politics has taken most of judicial time as well. Many cases have been put on the back burner because political cases have to be resolved timelessly, and commercial cases have been held back. We have cases in the Supreme Court awaiting dates for hearing since 2010.
Wow.
We don't even have a hearing date. And these are cases that, we've done in which the litigants have died while waiting for dates. at the end of it, what is the justice served? And until those issues are looked at quicker, how do we get the judiciary, how do we get cases resolved faster? Until we find that, we will still be wasting time.
Let me quickly
So
ask.
who should deal with that? The Bar Association or who?
Even the Bar Association, I dare say, in some of the issues are also complicit. We take cases to courts which should not be there. Unless the Bar Association takes more serious the case of disciplining erring lawyers. I found I was going to take a case on behalf of a client to Ireland. I called lawyer, the first barrister I called in Ireland, he said, I won't touch this case. It doesn't seem just, it doesn't seem what you're saying is making sense. So I had to first convince the lawyer and persuade him that, no, we have a good case. Before he looked at it, I said, okay, I understand this, but anything that will soil my name as a lawyer, I'll be punished by my Bar Association. I won't do it. Wow. So the lawyer will not even take on a case where it seems his name is going to be messed up or is going to be disciplined.
Let me ask, Prof, about how serious such issues as litigation, for commercial cases are. What's the capacity of such situations to slow down or fast track some of these propositions that you're making, Prof? We can't hear you. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so we have to ask how did we, for example, the case of Ajay, how did we get to litigation? Because the process of building that plan was never concluded. And then subsequent governments will now try to do one thing or the other, which I see in the past as bad faith. That's the issue I'm talking about, bad faith. We have to show good faith. I don't want to go into details. But the point is that, how do you get yourself into this kind of litigation? A nation, you invest your own money, spend billions of dollars, and then suddenly you're having litigation with an outsider who didn't put a penny. So again, it has to do with our governance system that got us there. I was part of that team. I joined Ajakuta in 1979. We were sent to India and all of that. We came back. By 1982, that plan should have been concluded in terms of structures. But we never got there. So I think, again, the issue of, a low-income country like that, we really can't afford some of these things. And I see my colleague Blair was saying, things that shouldn't even go to court are going there. You get yourself entrapped into this is really, for me, shooting yourself in the foot to start with. So yeah, the part of the drama over the last couple, but that wasn't the fundamental issue. The fundamental issue was that the industrial process was mismanaged. How many private sector companies are in court arguing over if you invest your money? So I don't know, but I believe that we need a reset.
Well, it sounds a lot, Prof, that we have a long way to go. To be very honest with you, the conversation we've had so far is just preliminary, really, because there are so many things that we weren't even able to touch. The debt burden, the GDP, investors are waiting, what the body language of a government is saying, implementation of Aviation Act, inflation figures. We haven't touched any of those, and already, just as you said, pressing reset on the economy before looking at the very specifics. But for now, we have to terminate this conversation here, Prof, and thank you so much for your time and perspectives and hope, because I know that the AFDB has been intervening a lot in at least Nigerian government, beside that of other African countries, to ensure that some things are done timeously and to the benefit of Nigerians. Thank you so much, Prof, for being a part of our conversation this morning. Professor Banji Ilaran-Oyinka is Senior Special Advisor on Industrialization to the President of the Africa Development Bank. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ayo. Thank you, Alaro.
Yes, sir. Before we let you go, Mr. Akinshun, what would be your passing shots to, especially for those who see that we have a challenge on our hands and we need to deal with it in order for the economy to reboot?
I think the incoming administration has his work cut out. How do I...
unenvied.
And I don't envy them. I believe, one, security affects income on the oil sector. They have to find a way to deal with the theft. And it has been done mostly by even the people who are supposed to keep it. And you then wonder, how do you deal with that? The financial system obviously aids a lot of frauds. There's nobody who can be corrupt. There's no money that will be stolen if the banking system doesn't support it. So we know what to look at and to deal with them one at a time.
We have to, those conversations have to be had. Those conversations have to be had. And I really have no idea, Alero, how to begin it, but it's definitely not here. The issues have been raised. Dapo Akinyosun, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much for your time this morning. We truly appreciate your perspectives.
Thank you very much. I hope by the next time I see you, I'll be a doctor now, a real doctor, not a doctor.
Okay, I think I've succeeded in giving you a title. We're back after now to stay with us.